Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Kel's Tips. Today we have a Pyramid Studio preamplifier that has been part of my studio up until now, but the volume pot has been giving me a little trouble. And so I thought I would take on the project of changing it out and either taking the pot out and trying my best to repair it, or else replacing it with a brand new pot that I ordered on eBay. Anyway, I started already disassembling this unit. I've got all the screws here. There must be about 15 of them in there. But anyway, if you're pursuing this project, you're going to have to take out a lot of black screws. It's a good little unit. It's good professional sound, and it's old. Well worth saving. So yeah, I'll proceed to dig into it and keep you posted. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to take it apart. I pulled all the screws out, and hopefully we won't cause a big clatter here. There's the lid. And this is the volume pot. This is the baby that's giving me trouble. And this is what I'm going to be changing out. Okay. You notice a few cracks in the faceplate here. I'm not sure where they come from, but it was before my time with this unit. Button comes off. Eventually I'll be taking that retainer nut off. What I'm going to do now is flip it over onto its back and proceed to take out the volume pot by unsoldering 6 legs underneath. Okay, so here we go. We're going to turn this whole section right over so we can access the switch. I'm going to prop this up on a support, and I'll try to zoom in on the area that I'll be working on. Here's the switch, and here are the 6 points that I'll be unsoldering. Okay, we're going to do a little bit of unsoldering the volume pot on this unit. I like to use a little bit of solder wick. Seems to do the trick rather easily. So now we have to take the nut off the front part of the volume pot. It turns out that you need to take all the screws, all the nuts off of all the potentiometers so that you can move the board back far enough to be able to remove this volume pot that's unsoldered. And there it comes now. And there it is. Here's your volume pot. It's A250K, unsoldered and ready for repair or replacement. Here are some of the products I used when attempting to clean this Dual-gang pot. A variety of sprays, electrosol cleaner, control cleaner, isopropanol, 99% alcohol, Q-tip, little pieces of shop towel, and a toothpick to use as a scrubber. I dip this in the isopropyl alcohol and put it into the area where the carbon traces are. You can see this is 250k ohm resistor. I just bent the tabs back. Here's the swipe that goes up against this back carbon trace. And that just lifts off there. Here's the white plastic back support to the swipe that wipes around the carbon trace to fix. I would simply put a alcohol soaked towel in here, take a toothpick, rub it back and forth, move this around, find a hole, rub it back and forth to attempt to clean the carbon trace. I'm going to measure the resistance for the back trace, and it's 237 k ohms for the back pot. The resistance for the front pot, 238.6 k ohms. So there's a little difference between the front and back pot. So it doesn't change much. There we go. So there's obviously some inconsistencies here. No connection at all. So it seems like the trace or the swipe or something is totally gone on this pot. Here is the old potentiometer, or volume pot, commonly known as, disassembled, and I have been cleaning the carbon traces and the contacts, and I'm starting to think that perhaps the carbon traces are deteriorated and worn out too much to actually to fix and to reinstall. However, proof is actually in fixing it and replacing it. Instead, however, I'm going to opt to go with this installation of the new volume pot. It's a 250 k ohm volume pot, and the only problem being is that the knurl shaft is somewhat shorter on this new one than it is on the old one. However, upon looking at it closely, I think it will still work. I think it'll still reach the knob through the faceplate. So I'm going to go ahead and install this. Here's the replacement pot that I purchased to substitute in. One of the things I normally do prior to doing any resoldering is to actually clean the old solder joint holes. And I do that with some isopropyl 99% alcohol and a Q-tip, and just brush it on. And you can see it's removing a lot of old flux and solder residue of all sorts and dirt that is collected there. And this will enable a better solder joint to form when I do solder, and better current flow in the connection. So clean with isopropyl alcohol. And that should dry in a few seconds, and you can go ahead and solder in your new piece. I've gone ahead and reinstalled the faceplate over top of the switches and tightened them down somewhat, even though I haven't installed the switch as such, or the potentiometer. I'm doing this so that I'll have everything in alignment solidly before I solder the potentiometer into the board. Other than that, I might have alignment problems. Okay, as you can see, I've put the washers over top of the knurl shafts, and I've located the nuts securely down over the shafts, and just one more to go here, and I'll be done this phase of the operation. There you have the potentiometer installed. It's not soldered yet. It's still a little bit loose, but the feet are poking through the solder holes, and I see the knurl shaft coming out the front, and it seems to reach the knob, so that's all good. Everything's in alignment, and with that I'll proceed to solder it in. Alright, so I'm ready to solder these 6 pins into the board. I've added a little weight onto the board to bring it down securely onto the 6-pin potentiometer, and yeah, we're ready to go. The pins have been cleaned, and I'm going to, at this point, just add a little bit of rosin flux to each point of solder. Not necessary, but I find that it enhances the solder joint. It sucks the solder into the joint a little better. So I choose to do that. All right. Okay, I'm going to proceed to solder this up. And that should do the trick for the soldering. After the soldering, I like to give it a little isopropyl alcohol bath to get any remaining residue away from the solder joints. So a little bit of cleanup with the alcohol, and we should be done with this segment. There's some physical damage to this unit. I am going to get some epoxy glue and take this chunk off here, put some glue into the right spots. I've also got the replacement segment to fit into that little notch right there that I'm going to try to glue in. So yeah, there's a little screw holding this back plate in, and I'll just have to take that screw out, and this whole section should come out, whereby I can do some gluing. This is the location that I'll have to do some gluing from. I'm going to take it apart and use some isopropyl alcohol to clean the edges with this Q-tip and clean all the pieces. I'll be using a small amount of equal of each hardener and epoxy resin, JB Quick glue, for this project. Here's the Pyramid preamp reassembled, the new volume pot reinstalled, and the correction to the broken case with the epoxy glue. It's all ready to fire up and ready to go. So here you have it, folks. The volume pot is installed, and there's no scratching or clicking or noises.
Living without you is all I ever wanted to do.
I would say that's a
Now that you're gone,
completed project and successful. So until next time, it's Kel's Tips saying so long for now. The music that you're hearing on this demonstration is music that I recorded myself, and it's copyright to myself, Kelly McKay, in 1978.